Hi YouTubers, I'm El Gracian from elbowpepper.com. It's the middle of August 2016 and this weekend I've been able to visit my grandmother and my grandpa, and I'm excited to see how their garden has been working out for them this summer. If you've been following along with the progress, we used to have an in-ground plot here that was not really in an ideal location. But since then, we found a better spot, and rather than using in-ground beds, we're now using 4-foot by 12-foot raised beds. And after a couple of years of installation, we're now up to 5 beds. I want you to see how many vegetables and different types of things, different systems that we have here for our annual vegetables. But more than that, we're now also putting in the framework for some perennials, some fruit production. And I want you to see that as well. So let's look at how this is pumping out some food, some vegetables for them, and how excited they are with this growing season.
So right off of their back porch, here we have 5 4-foot by 12-foot conventional raised beds. We had potatoes, and here we put in 12 pounds and got a 3-fold yield. So about 3 times the amount as what we put in, we pulled out. That's not too bad. They were really happy with the way the plants had progressed. But over here we have tomatoes that are going really crazy. We look forward to having some better infrastructure in place as far as being able to stake up these plants, maybe even building a complete cage around the box. That way we don't have them falling into the walkways and stuff. But this just shows how much productivity you can get from just a good old regular raised bed. And here we have some other things. We've got some melons. There's a watermelon that's coming along pretty nicely. And we've got beans back in here that we've put in a trellis in place. And so that's been able to give us more vertical growth, to be able to squeeze in even more plant production. Over here we have something, this is a zucchini that's actually called a baby round zucchini. And well, this got a little bit bigger than what it should. If you've seen, I have a video showing the ideal size to pick these at, and if you don't, well, this is what they end up looking like. They are really more of a winter squash, and so they have a whole bunch of these that they'll have to cook a little bit differently than their conventional zucchinis. But we do have this other variety, a nice standard issue zucchini that has just continually been giving them a great yield. Some very nice looking plants here, and then we have 2 plantings of corn. The first was done earlier, and then this second one is coming along nicely. So to interplant things, we have some beans that have now been started at the base of these corn plants. That way, as the corn is harvested, the remaining stalks can be left as a support system for those beans. The peas are kind of at their end of life, but those had been working out really nicely. And I've got some cucumbers here, and the beans are just, I mean, these beans are prolific. I mean, they're just pumping out lots and lots of beans, so this has worked really well for them. And more of it, some interplantings. We have carrots that we've put along the edges in between things. So rather than devoting a big old spot just for carrots, in between our peppers, in between our tomatoes along the edges, we've been able to fit in some carrots to get an additional crop out of the same space. We have onions, which we kind of did the same thing. We did like a couple rows of onions and have those growing in between some of these tomatoes. So if you look, what we actually did was we planned this out doing a nice little diagram showing how we had everything arranged and how we intended to grow everything, and that gave us some realistic spacing, and we were able to plan the number of plants and stuff. And even doing that, we still have had such an insane amount of growth. Like we did the same thing with the beets. Along the edges here, where we have, of course, the main crop in the center, those zucchini plants, along the edges, we squeezed in some beets. And so you can just come along here and pop those out without using an entire bed, an entire box of space that's just beets. But now I want you to see what we have going forward further into the future, not just the annual vegetable production, but looking at fruiting perennials. Along the perimeter here, we now have some fruit trees that we're beginning to get established. We have a cherry plum here. We have a peach tree. We have a goumi, which is a nitrogen fixing plant that produces a small red berry that tastes pretty good actually. We have a little pawpaw here. We have some comfrey. There's another peach. There's another goumi. Here is another pawpaw. And here we have a mulberry. So this is on the northern side of the garden, so that we won't have to worry about these trees or these bushes shading out our vegetable production. They'll be actually creating sort of like a sun trap almost, being able to capture more of that energy from the sun and kind of create like this nice little pocket where we can hold in and shelter our garden for the optimal production. And now we have a system that is more of a long-term system that we'll be able to see progressing year after year, getting more and more established. For reclaiming and setting up this bed, you see how we have all this grass that we have to deal with. And rather than trying to rip out all that sod, and of course certainly we wouldn't want to spray any glyphosate on that and kill that using carcinogens, so we're smothering it out with some cardboard using a basic sheet mulching technique, and then we're putting a nice thick layer of mulch on top of that to suppress all that growth, and then to be able to kill out that sod without having to do an excessive amount of work, and allowing all that organic matter to be in place that will eventually be able to nourish these perennials that we're getting established.
Well guys, it's been another year. Now you see the progress that we've seen in developing this excellent compact food production site, using not just your annual vegetables, but looking into some permacultural techniques, interplanting different types of fruiting perennials, using things that complement each other as they grow, things that accumulate nutrients, things that fix nitrogen. And I'm really excited now, looking on a long-term basis, year after year, to see how the trees and the berry bushes and things like this progress. But at the same time, we have those annual cycles of the vegetables that'll just pump out volume really fast, in and out every season. That's really exciting too. I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I hope that it's given you some ideas, maybe some inspiration, some things that you can consider trying on your lot, or maybe someone else that you know, helping them out. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, happy gardening.